Hello and welcome. Today we've got the Everton Brentford takeaways, talking points, whatever you want to say. 1-1 draw. Probably the result that we were looking for. Obviously, a bit to be desired left out on the pitch, but it is what it is. We came up with something, but we were in that winning position, so a bit disappointing. Anyway, let's get into the talking points. Opening the game, we were very demanding of possession, which was a really welcome sight given we are always on the wrong side of it. Like 30-40% possession. We had, the flip side. We were 60% possession and we were dictating the play, which was good. Demarai Gray continues to be a bit trash with his touch inside the penalty area. It happened a couple of occasions in this game, and it ultimately cost us in the end. You would have thought with that late opportunity, which we will get to a little bit later. There were a few occasions where we got caught out on the counter. Nathan Patterson had a really good instance where I think he deflected two different passing attempts by Brentford, and he was able to cut those ones out. I think the problem is, there were a couple times where they just went breakaway straight from a corner kick on our end. And I think the problem is with not having strikers, you have to have your defenders commit more because obviously you've got no other taller players, and then you're leaving a little bit to be desired at the back. It's going to be a little bit tougher to recover. You've got to run a little bit more yardage. I think if we're talking about that, we need a little bit more communication. Someone needs to sacrifice their own game and basically set up the fort so we're not getting outnumbered, because it happened a few too many times where it was like a 2v3, a 1v3, and I was like, well, how is this happening given we're the defenders and they're the attackers? It should be the complete other way around. That could be down to Brentford being more alert and recognising the weakness, or it's just us being lethargic and being a bit slow to react. I think something about this game in the first half, there was a lot of endeavour by the Everton players, showing there weren't too many fouls. It was a very free-flowing game, so obviously you needed to go fetch your own ball, and we were pretty good at that. Really cramming them, I guess, and Brentford always, forced to go backwards. The long passing was exceptional. Obviously, that's how we got our goal, but I think beyond that, the intent was there. The distribution by the centre halves was exceptional, and we were always looking to get it to the fullbacks in wide areas and whipping across. The problem is we don't have any tall players in the box, so that's pretty counterproductive, and then you have to go back and reset, and Brentford's already set up, and it basically turns to shit. But if you have a striker in the middle, that problem possibly could have been amended. Obviously, we talk about the goal, Anthony Gordon. It was a very clinical finish, and that's some composure that we haven't seen from the player. I think he was the player of the game in this one. As I said, very clinical, very composed. Endeavour was there basically all day. He proved his worth. Obviously, Frank Lampard has put a high price tag on the player, and obviously I don't understand why we haven't sold him yet, given the high price tag. But he absolutely played like it. He played like our best, and he was up there with Iwobi as our best player. So, I'm going to give it to him. I think on top of that, him, Gray, McNeil, not as much McNeil, but Gray and Gordon, their pace really had the Brentford defenders in a lot of strife. That's why the slow build-up play is not going to work, because Brentford obviously can play a deep line when we are, we're stuffing around with it just outside the penalty box. They've already set up their, their back line. And, there's no real space to run into behind. And if we do quick play and we do it, a bit higher up the pitch, more in the centre of the park, these players are able to exploit that, and that's what Gordon and Gray were doing. They were getting behind, and the Brentford players were on their haunches. They were, very vulnerable, and they were always, one step behind. It was a bit annoying that we didn't exploit that enough, but intent was there for at least the first half. Fullbacks on the front foot has been a talking point. It hasn't happened enough. But these players, Mikalenko and Patterson, they were getting into those attacking areas as we mentioned. And the more we can do that, the more reinforcements we can get forward, and the more trouble it is for Brentford to, contain these players, because they're like, well, where are they getting these extra numbers from? We need to even things up, and, it sort of could do them over in terms of structure and what they had planned. So it was a good idea. Amadou Onana, he had his first start in this game, and I think there was a really nice piece of skill at the end of the first half. Basically, It was like a little chip pass towards him, and he was able to bring the ball to ground very, very gently, and did some like spin move thing, and then kicked the ball ahead into space, and was able to get around the Brentford player and run into that space. So given his height, not too many players can do that. We've got a gem on our hands, and those little glimpses are really exciting. Hopefully we can see more of that more regularly. So there was a chance earlier in the second half where Onana, I think he lost the ball, but then he put in this absolutely stellar challenge to win the ball back, and then we're off to the races. He got it to Dwight McNeil, I think, who had the perfect IQ in this play. He absolutely perfectly anticipated where Gray was going to run, and you can always trust Demarai Gray to probably scuff the shot attempt. We got actually really close on that. Anthony Gordon with a shot off the ricochet, and then Mikolenko was a bit unlucky. Raya was pretty good with the closeout to, sort of prevent the shot from really developing into anything. But the play was there. And those opportunities like that, I think if we can see that more often, we'll, probably see a few in the back of the net. And then we have to talk about that Demarai Gray shot probably in the back end of the second half when we were up 1-0. And obviously you want to reinforce the lead and solidify it and make sure that there's no anxiety going into the final 10 minutes. For some reason, Demarai Gray was ahead of the defender. It was a one-on-one with the keeper, and then he decides to do some bullshit loop-the-loops type stuff. I don't even know what he was doing, what he was thinking, but it's that stuff that is really stopping us from going to the next level. You've got to keep things simple. We've seen it in past occurrences that simple is better. Complicated is not. And Demarai Gray was just trying to, I guess, bait the Brentford player into, I don't know what he was trying to achieve, but it didn't work, and the shot got denied. And, Demarai Gray probably have a bit of a better track record in front of goal if he could actually just keep things simple. Get the ball past the keeper, at least just have a shot. If you take the shot and don't hesitate and don't try to do anything fancy, the chances of you scoring the goal and it finding the back of the net are much higher than if you try hold on to the ball longer. So there you go. But Ruda missed opportunity there. And then we talk about the questionable closing. What I've written here. So first and foremost, Brentford obviously adopted a high press. We were trying to play keep away, and Brentford were trying to win the ball back to give themselves that opportunity in scoring. We needed to draw the collapse of defenders and then basically find pockets of space, switch the play to hold on to it as long as possible, but we just don't have the personnel that is good enough to do that. We can't absorb pressure for that long, and we were trying to absorb it for about 25 minutes, and finally the crack showed with that goal conceded. You can only do it for so long, that strategy, and we're not equipped to do it. We've seen it on numerous occasions. Somehow I think that us being down 1-0 is better than us being up 1-0, because it doesn't really feel like we have any incentive to reinforce the lead, as I mentioned before, rather than, realising that we're down a goal and we really need to chase the game. We've got nothing to lose. I think we're better equipped to do that, but obviously that's not what you want. That's not what you want, and I think we've got to stop falling into that trap. The goal, as far as I'm concerned, was very, very poor. No marking. It's the second week in a row this has happened. Nottingham Forest. Patterson just lost track of where his man was, and this week it was 3 Everton players. Not one seemed to realise that Yana was on the back post, and that is just poor. So that is the mediocrity just showing, once again, shining through. Overall, I would have probably said this before the game, but I do take the point. However, I am very disappointed that usually when we're playing games against other teams, and let's say we have 20 shots on goal, somehow other teams always seem to find a goal somewhere in some jammy way, and we never seem to score. And it's always like some 1-0 win, in the unluckiest of ways. And then when we've got oppositions doing YouTube crossbar challenges, we can never seem to capitalise on, the wasted opportunities by the opposition. It's really that simple. Obviously we should have lost this one, probably 3-0 or 4-1 or whatever. Because of, all those opportunities they had. They hit the crossbar, they hit the 2 posts, and on a better day, Brentford would have seen a few more goals in the back of the net, but regardless, I'm happy with it. You know, the Premier League is a brutal game though. It doesn't allow for too many errors, and ultimately that was our downfall today. Once again, lapses. And yeah, we've got to iron out the kinks. You can't afford to have any concentration lapses. It's no secret. It's happened again, and that's really holding us back. So let's hope we can pick up the form against Leeds, I do believe, next up. That's going to be a really good game. Leeds are in good form, but they did lose, so they'll be hungry for a win. And we've got to be ready for the challenge because it's going to be a tough task. They've obviously started on the right foot and they've got some really good players, some good additions, and we're going to have our hands full. So we've got to be ready for it. Neil Mope should be starting, so it's going to be good to have a striker and a bit of a focal point up forward. Anyway, thank you for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.